It is.
This is a great segue into our second topic of the day.
Oh, Janet Yellen.
Janet Yellen is going to China.
Yeah,
so
she's there
Secretary of
already.
the U.S.
She arrived.
Yes,
I
she's
saw
there.
this morning.
Yes. So
she landed, but here's the thing, quickly before
yeah.
sorry to interrupt here, but she was by herself when she landed.
That's
I saw the
interesting.
image.
Yeah.
Like I always say, in international relations,
yeah,
context matters.
Yeah.
You know, wasn't presidency waiting for her?
Oh no,
which
no,
would
no.
be like crazy. So yeah, let's talk about that. Why is she going there for?
All right.
In your opinion,
okay.
What do you think?
So we had some interesting snafu after Blinken went.
Of course.
Do you remember what that was? So after Secretary Blinken went, let's see, and let me see if I can find the quote. So Secretary of State Blinken went in mid-June, and he did meet with President Xi Jinping. Okay, here's the issue. When he got back...
No, he did meet with Xi. He did meet with Xi.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. He did meet with him.
He did, yes.
Okay, but what I'm saying is when he got back, President Biden called President Xi a dictator. And I just cannot. I cannot. I cannot. Because even, there are things that you just, whether you think them or not, you don't say them out loud. So this is one of those things. President Biden, you don't say it out loud. Diplomacy is about, diplomacy, even in relationships, no matter who you are, there are certain times when you keep your thoughts to yourself. And this is one of those times.
That's true. I do have a theory about that statement.
Okay.
There are only two, at least in my opinion. And again, this is my opinion. I could be wrong, but two things. Either Biden didn't know what he was saying.
Which is possible.
Or second, this shows that Biden had no intention of changing U.S. policy towards China. That's the only two options. I've been around in my head around it.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I've really been wrapping my head around it to say to myself, why on earth, in a diplomatic setting, you will go here, you want to reach out to a country, you want to figure out the differences and all that stuff, and you go in and provoking the country, because that's a provocation, basically.
Absolutely.
And I thought of those two possibilities. That's the only thing I could
You're absolutely right.
So
I think it is literally the only possibility is one of those two things. And it could be either thing. Because, we know that Biden has actually gone, on air, press conferences and all of that, and said things that the White House press corps has, or the White House spokesperson. Thank you for reading my mind just then. The White House spokesperson has had to come back and say, just kidding. He didn't actually mean that. So sorry. That's happened a decent amount of times.
And usually in international relations, words tends to turn into policy. There is no for her or him to say, oh, we're just kidding here. There's no such thing. The statement already went out. So you call in, because it's also be interpreted as provocation. As a matter of fact, I did read the statement from the Treasury Department. That's what I always say.
Right.
I always say statements, reading the statements or reading the, what do you call it? The communique after a summit. They always give you an insight about policy. And what I read was the reason why Janet Yellen is going is to continue the dialogue for fixing the relationship. I'm paraphrasing here. Fixing a relationship with China. How the heck can you do that when you are doing this here and undermining or sabotaging the relations right here?
Right.
No. And that's why I don't see. Actually, I was even thinking. I thought that China would not agree to the meeting at all.
I was surprised. Yeah, I also was surprised, but I do think you're right. So I think that China actually also sees that it is very important to at least attempt to have this type of dialogue. Like it is important to at least attempt it, because the economies of China and the United States, whether you want to believe it or not, are not you, but in general, right? Whether people want to believe it or not, are actually very tied together. And so and the de-dollarization really is happening. I mean, that's not a joke. That really is happening. And so, and I don't know. I don't know if this has to be true, but the rest of the world has to look at the president of the United States right now and say, not the people who have been fed the narrative that he's so great and going to save everybody,
Yeah.
but the real political
No,
leaders
he
in the
needs to
world.
retire. Let alone they
Yes.
just found cocaine in the White House. So,
What is
which to me, you know what it's all about here now? That the integrity. Listen to this carefully, guys. Is the integrity of the presidency as an institution. It's gone.
Yeah. Well, I think it left kind of a while ago, don't you think?
Yeah. But we all know, you go back to the Clinton era.
Yeah.
That office doesn't belong to those individuals. That belongs to the people.
Yeah.
But the integrity of the presidency as an institution.
Yeah.
Oops, is gone.
Absolutely.
So for a president to be saying, call him a dictator or not,
right?
Maybe in your private conversation with him, you might want to, but you don't go on the international stage. Then you send in your Secretary of Treasury. And this is why I was surprised. I was thinking that China's gonna cut it off. But when I checked for one thing, believe it or not, I checked for one thing about the official statements from Beijing confirming the trip. That's what gives me the idea that they are okay with her coming. I was surprised.
Yeah.
I said, because what would you, let's just play a role play here. If I am to be abusive to you verbally, why would you even want to have a conversation with me?
Right.
Why would you want to even sit down and have a talk with me?
Right.
To me, I look at it this way. But again, like what the CIA director said last night in London, decoupling is nonsense.
It's nonsense. Absolutely.
So
it's absolutely
nonsense. He's a CIA director. He will have key information plus intelligence communities do have a conversation behind the scenes. They
do. Well, and he went to China, remember? He went to China very recently.
Yeah. And he used to be ambassador.
Right.
Then. But the idea of the statement from the Treasury Department saying that Janet Yellen is going to continue the conversation, it's baloney.
Right.
It's nonsense. She's going there for 2 or 3 main reasons. That's the only thing I see. And again, I could be wrong. One of them, you mentioned it.
Yeah.
It's about pulling US companies out of China.
Right.
Good luck with that.
Right.
The reason I'm saying this and why I stand with my what's the word I'm looking for? I draw a blank. My conviction.
Yeah.
Who went to China about 3 weeks ago? Tim Cook.
Who else? Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
Yep.
Evil Bill one later, but that's Evil Bill. We don't worry about that one. We'll think about Tim Cook and Elon Musk. Go ahead, let it out.
No,
let it out.
So it actually, China hosting the World Economic Forum recently.
The summit, yes.
And Bill Gates going and President Xi saying old friends to him. That
they go way back.
I know, but what I can't tell is where that line is, because I think it's very clear at this point that the World Economic Forum is not out for the best interest of the people of anywhere.
That's true.
Right?
That's
They're
true.
just not. The you'll own nothing and be happy by 2030.
Will that include China, in your opinion?
Well, and that's my question.
I know.
I don't have an answer to that, but I think it is based on the fact, right?
Yeah.
Did they pull? Because the Davos crowd is the cross section of humanity that runs everything.
That's correct.
They run all the major corporations. They run what we eat, where we live, what we do, what we consume, what we think,
what we own.
If
we ever.
Right? The big banks, all of it. They're the ones. And, we think, it's just government. It's just government. But it's not. Government is not who sets the majority of policy, especially here in the United States. But that's true in other countries too. And so you're looking at a situation where China is being particularly friendly to the World Economic Forum, which we know, you can call them evil or whatever, which I think is possibly appropriate, but they're out for their own best interest.
Yeah.
And they are certainly not out for ours.
Okay.
But why is China so close or getting closer to the World Economic Forum? Why is Bill Gates, is that relationship, and the reason he called him old friend because, because of Microsoft?
Well, yeah, because what they did in China economically back then, Microsoft.
Right.
Yeah. But I think the
is
picture
it
is
philanthropy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I see your point. But you gotta think about it, the big picture also. China also thinking about what's in it for China.
I get that, right?
And here is the thing, because
Yeah.
the question to why World Economic Forum will go to China but not the US. That's an also you could look at it on
That's
the
a great
opposite
question.
spectrum
Yeah.
as to the reflection of the new geopolitical landscape.
Mhm.
The global order is already shifting or has already shifted
Yeah.
with China being at the head.
Right.
Could it be that the decision for the Davos summit to be in China but not the US
Yeah.
is a reflection of that? That's a possibility to it. The other thinking is that could it be also that the World Economic Forum, despite, I care less for that. Actually,
I'm
to me, it's
really
no,
big,
no.
Not a fan.
But when we think about who's managing that, most of the economy of who control the resources and so forth,
right.
Are they seeing that China, not the United States, is where the economic fortunes come in? And that's why they did that.
Well, I agree with you. And I think that is the question.
And for China, that's why they did it, because it's all about optics.
But it's at the cost of what? And it's interesting. And guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but David, isn't Vladimir Putin a World Economic Forum young leader?
He was there. He attended events, but he won't be the likes, to my knowledge, the likes of Justin Trudeau or Emmanuel Macron or the former Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern, or even the former Prime Minister of Finland, Sanna.
Yeah.
Yes, he was there, but he wasn't. They realized that's why Putin snapped back at the World Economic Forum about a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
I read the statement.
And I did too.
I read the statement.
So what I can tell is this, okay? Because, people are like, oh, I don't know about that. I don't think it's that complicated. Human relationships, especially in politics and money, business, are very complex. And it's so easy to say, oh, it's not possible that people are conspiring together to achieve certain goals in the world. What?
No, they are.
That's humanity. That's basic human behavior to do that.
That's true.
I mean, you look at any group of people and what are they doing?
Yeah.
They're conspiring basically to have their own best interests met. And this isn't everybody. There are really good people in the world, but the really good people in the world. So there's Walmart, for example. I was talking to someone and they were telling me that that Walmart has a part of their training that talks about how to apply for food stamps, because there are so many people here in the United States who literally have full-time jobs and cannot afford to buy food. They work full-time. Walmart knows this is happening. Is that someone who has the best interest of their employees at heart? Yeah. While, that company is making billions in profit.
Yeah, that's true.
And so you look at these large corporations, you look at how degraded our food is, all over the world, but certainly here in the United States. And in its own right, companies tried to make food cheaper. Yeah. They tried to make it as cheap as possible. Yeah. And so in making it as cheap as possible, they also made it not very fit for human consumption, certainly for human health.
You're right.
And so you're looking at a group of people who don't have people's best interest. Yeah. They don't have humanity's best interest at heart. They have their own best interest at heart. And so what I don't know is, what is the game? Is it that Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping really are, against the World Economic Forum, and it's like, keep your friends close and your enemies closer? Or is it something that they're working together and making it look like they're not? I don't have an answer to that. No. But I think the question is worth considering and it's worth thinking about.
Now you see why I grow my own veggies at home.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
Now to go back to that point, which was spot on, is the idea of, I'll give you two examples: Wall Street and BlackRock.
Absolutely. Oh my!
When you talked about Wall Street
Yeah.
and BlackRock, so that's the idea. For presidency, President Putin are they coordinating whatever? Yes, they are coordinating, and they are coordinating. They are coordinating for this new global order.
Yeah.
That it's not going to benefit just Russia, just China, but rather the rest of the world in a different settings, because each country has its own resources.
Yeah.
That is where it's going to be different. The way I see it. That's why I said, and I still stand by my conviction, that the new multipolar system will be based on economic blocks.
Yeah.
Not ideology,
right?
Not finance, not this, not that. It's the economic blocks that's going to define.
Yep.
So what they found themselves, Russia and China, what they found themselves is they have a common objectives, common enemy, of course, but a common objectives. And that objective is economics.
Yep.
That's why I believe, I could be wrong, as one who did the research on Russia and currently doing the research on China, I am seeing both indications leading to that for them to coordinate their effort. This is why now you see an uptick into the military alliance between the two.
Yep.
They don't have an official military alliance, but there is moving slowly.
Yeah. Well, and you're absolutely right. They outright have said we are partners, and China's outright said we support Russia, except in Ukraine we support Russia, right? Because they can't come out and say,
well, actually, because China wants to stay neutral.
Right.
It's no different than what India did.
Right.
It's no different than even, for example, voices inside Malaysia, inside Indonesia, inside Singapore. I'll take the example of Singapore.
Yeah.
Singapore has sanctioned Russia, but deep down, they're friends with Russia.
Right.
Makes you just wonder, were they pressured? And this is where that's why I'm thinking about, like I said to Ross yesterday, maybe we need to think about Singapore and bring up, because that's our objective for this show here.
Yeah.
Is to bring up issues to the forefront.
Who has massive wealth stored in Singapore in a similar way to how Swiss banks are operated?
Yeah, the US.
Where else?
Yeah,
China
has some.
Yeah,
but not as much as the US.
Well, the US
actually, because it was some laundry. It was laundry money investigations few about 2.5 decades ago or so. I read up on it, going through Singapore.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, as the FBI got involved, and certain deals were cut behind the scenes. That's why I didn't hear much about it.
Yeah.
And all that. So they were,
which is usually how that works, right? We think we get all the information. We absolutely do
we don't.
not.
So it's no different than what took place in Indonesia and Malaysia. So, but that's topic for another day. So to go back to why Janet Yellen is going to China. So there are those, like you mentioned, said, well, she's going to have to push the U.S. Companies to move out. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
There are two other main things. And I will use the term begging. Usually I won't use it lightly.
Yeah.
But begging on two ends, not just for one thing, begging for two things. And those two things are begging for money, of course.
Yeah. Loan. Loan money.
But begging for China not to sell U.S. treasuries.
Yeah.
Because we've been selling it like crazy.
Yeah.
And the key to that.
And that's a big problem.
Very big
problem.
Average Joe, average Jane here has no idea.
Or that it's even happening.
Yeah.
They have no, because the last thing that people heard is China's buying up all the treasuries, right?
Yeah.
That's the last big thing that was talked about here is, oh, China's buying up all the treasuries. Nobody's talking about them selling them.
Yeah. And the key thing to that is China's doing it in a way that's selling them and turning it right away and converting it to gold.
Yeah.
And this is nothing new.
Nope.
That's what led me to conclude about the BRICS currency backed by the gold, because you see in other elements or other what's the word I'm looking for? Changes
Yeah.
taking place. It's like a puzzle. You
It
put it
is.
together.
Yes.
So that's what
Yes.
China
It's
did.
like
What
a
it
puzzle.
did
Yeah.
is to, well, I think that's why, I'm sorry, that's why Janet Yellen is going to back for those two things.
So interestingly enough, I have some stats.
Yeah.
So this is People's Bank of China extended its gold buying spree for a 7th straight month with a 16-ton addition to its official reserves. So this is from Zero Hedge. Since recommencing reports of purchases in November 2022, the People's Bank of China has added 144 tons to its official gold holdings. Officially, Chinese holdings stand at 2,092 tons. Chinese central bank accumulated 1,448 tons of gold between 2002 and 2019. Then suddenly went silent.
Yeah.
Who knows what it was doing during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And resumed its reporting. Not purchasing. We don't know what they were doing during that time. Resumed its reporting in November 2022. Many speculate that the Chinese continued to add gold to its holdings off the books during the silent years.
Well, most countries do that, not just China. I mean, you look at France now declaring they have more in gold.
Oh, Poland too. Yeah. Poland is actually who bought the most gold, or who purchased the biggest amount of gold.
I was about to say, bought it or took it.
Well, it says they bought it, so we'll see. But they added 19 tons to their reserve in May.
Yeah.
What what do these countries know that the rest of everybody doesn't?
The other thing also has to do with this guy. Jerome Powell, the head of the Feds. Why Janet Yellen is going there? Because she knew that he's going to increase interest rate by the end of July.
Yeah.
Then the launch of the CBDC, the central bank digital currency,
which most people here in the United States do not want. They do not want it because the potential for misuse for a central bank digital currency is so substantial.
But no matter what they say, some of us Americans are just oblivious to. We can just say whatever till they act on it. Nothing's gonna.
Yeah.
Most of us Americans are we go with whatever the wind is taking. You look at now what's going on. Do they even have a grasp of what's taking place?
No, absolutely not. But you talk about this all the time, David. The population of many parts of the world, it's not just here, but especially the Western world, is very distracted.
By design.
By design. Absolutely. People are distracted. They're very unhealthy. The systems here are absolutely crumbling. It's a huge mess.
Well, thanks to the Ukraine.